What's up, Rockstars? Today I'm offering some tips and tricks as you get started into your journey into Oathsworn, into the Deepwood by Shadowborn Games. Let's get right down to it. Thank you to my channel sponsor Into the AM. As a company that believes hard work and a great product is a proper way to conduct business, I am delighted to have them as part of the channel. They have some of the coolest graphic t-shirts around and an absolute best fit and feel that has continually exceeded my expectations. With new shirts arriving all the time and other products like boxers, hats, and even a monthly shirt club, I wholeheartedly recommend them to you. Check out the link in my description of this video for an exclusive 10% off everything they sell. Now, as always, a huge shout out to my patrons and YouTube members. It is through their financial support that this channel is possible. If you appreciate videos just like this and you can give even $1 a month, there is a link down in the description below. Thank you so very much. The other way, let's dive in. I'm going to be pumping this out in 3 different sections. First, on the game itself, like component-wise, storage-wise, all that kind of stuff. And then, of course, the city phase and the encounter phase. So we're going to talk about all 3 of those. Let's start with the actual game one, and I have some notes here I'll be referring to as I go along. Okay, let's talk about those wonderful hips miniatures you get for your heroes. Now, they are push-fit design, which means when you first get them in, now they may have been jostled around a little bit as they were shipping out, but you can push them back together again and then press firmly on the front and back, and it should snap them in pretty darn good. You'll have that friction you need to hold the pieces together. If you want to, however, you can glue all the pieces together except the part of the actual weapons themselves, the 2 arms typically, and that is for if you want to upgrade or change your gear in the future. However, you're not beholden to that. You can glue any of the weapons that you want if you have the armory box or not, and just fully glue it as you wish. Now, going along with that, if you did get the armory box, there is a tray on the very bottom that's just these 4 empty spots. That is for you to put the characters in your free company, the characters that you pick, because when you change their weapons, it changes the pose of them, and they won't necessarily fit in the same spot that they used to in their default poses in the core box. So those little big areas there are for your characters, so you can still safely store them in there if you wish. And lastly, if you think you are missing cards, be sure to open all of the card packs and store them as it says. It'll have you group them together. How the manufacturing of these cards work is it's all an automated process by machines, and so it has like a set size before it wraps it up, and it'll fill that size with whatever cards it has. So at the end, you might get a few ally cards or a few of this or a few of that, and that can spread them between decks. So before you think you're missing some, make sure you open up all the card packs. Okay, next up, gameplay. Let's talk about the city phase, and let's actually talk about before you even start. When you're first picking a character, there's a few things to keep in mind. First of all, the abilities are not the only thing that matters. While that's important because it's how your character plays, know that story-wise, event-wise, who is in your party matters. So taking one character might affect something differently than taking another character or not having that character there. For instance, I'm sure you can imagine all sorts of reasons why having an Ursa Warbear in your party might be helpful or detrimental depending on the situation. Now be sure when you're picking out characters to talk with each other and plan a good party out. Just because everybody might inherently want to play somebody who can wear plate armor does not mean that you will find enough plate armor, at least early in the game, to actually have that as a benefit. So it might be more beneficial to have a bigger variety of characters for that reason alone. Lastly, I just want to say that the complexity rating is real. If you are unsure, feel free to look through the cards of what you'd be using, and if they don't make sense, pick another character. As you play the game and as you understand the system more and more, you will understand these characters more, and they would make a fantastic second playthrough where you can make different decisions, do different things, and play a different character. But don't go into this not knowing how to play your character. Not only will you be frustrated, but you'll die. Now, another thing to keep in mind as you venture out into the city in your first outing and you're going through that city phase, please keep in mind that this plays a little bit differently than your standard thing where you just read some story and then fight a monster. In this case, you need to be very careful to pay attention to key clues that it might be telling you without actually telling you. That is, you might overhear mention of certain people, places, things, vocations, or otherwise just have to treat the story kind of like a tabletop or a pen and paper RPG like Dungeons and Dragons or something. So if you're looking for somebody, you might want to think, where would they be? And then listen on clues, especially around locations and stuff like that. It'll be in there. You just have to look for it. Now, as you go through the game, you will find items or weapons or gear that might have a special utility or benefit that would be situational. Keep those in your backpack. Don't be tempted to necessarily sell everything you get, because those might come up and be handy later on. Now, one thing to keep in mind, because this can be affected even in the city phase, is that HP is your most valuable resources and you should save it at all costs. And lastly, this kind of goes without saying, but permanent upgrades are permanent. Make sure to make a good decision with them. Alright, now let's get into fighting cool bosses, okay? In the encounter phase, again, I cannot stress this enough, HP is your most valuable resource. You should always probably defend, because you can die in one hit if you don't, and you have some bad luck with a mean attack, and these bosses have plenty of those. Trust me, I've done it myself. Remember that discarding a card from your hand for its defense value is free, and keep the defense value in mind when it comes to what you're playing on your turn, so you know what's in your hand. Now, the game gives you an option of either using dice or the might cards, and while the math is technically the same, the might cards can be manipulated a little bit, especially if you're good at card counting. So you can use that to your benefit and make the game slightly easier if you're good at managing that deck. There is such a thing as AoE attacks that the enemies can do as well. Just because you haven't seen it come up yet, doesn't mean it's not coming your way. Bunch up at your own discretion, and really what that means is keep your distance away from each other if at all possible. If you can, just try to mitigate being bombed in one fell swoop by a boss that decides to AoE and nuke your party to oblivion. Speaking of boss behaviors, remember that when their deck changes, their behaviors can change drastically. I'm not going to get into any spoilers, but just as a general example, maybe something that is in your face and melee might then decide to start shooting ranged AoE attacks, and then afterwards might start doing debuffs and moving around even more erratically or something like that. Or maybe it's a last-ditch effort and goes all in on a single person, just trying to kill the closest person. You don't necessarily know what you're getting into when you first go into it, but try and be ready to adapt to that, especially when you know you're about to hit the trigger to the next level of cards. Triggering your battle flow with your 0 cooldown card is key. Look at the battle flow. A good player in Oathsworn will use combos with that battle flow, getting cards in their hands and then continuing to use them. That's how you get epic moves. That's how you make memorable moments. That's how you feel awesome. Do it. If you miss, do not forget the determination rule. This is key for anybody that rolls dice as bad as I do. So if you are with me and we have poor dice luck or even poor card drawing luck, it seems to not matter. That determination rule is for you. What that means is if you miss, if you get 2 blinks, you get a power token where you can either get the reroll or the empower, and you get any tokens you used back for that attack. So it wasn't a waste, and instead you're going to come back even stronger next time. You can do it. I believe in you. Okay, this is a hard lesson learned on my part, but I want to bestow it upon you. The minions matter. Do not ignore them. Do not get swarmed. They will win. This might be confusing to some of you, but when you use your weapon in the cooldown, in the battle flow, just know that you always still gain any kind of defense or might benefit of your gear, regardless of if it's on cooldown or not. And lastly, I'll leave you with this. Plan together, work together, form your turn, not just with you as a solo player, but you as a team player, because positioning matters, being able to set things up matter, making a body part ready for the next person to then finish it matters. All of that is important, and you will play more efficiently if you guys do work together, so do communicate excessively. And that's it. That's all the wisdom I can give you without spoiling a whole bunch and really just saying good luck. Know that, of course, this is a grim, dark fantasy game, and as the grim, dark part of it, there will be blood, there will be death. Hopefully more on them than on you, but be prepared for a slaw. And if nothing else, you can always lower the difficulty. Don't be ashamed. You don't even have to tell anybody. We don't have to know. Either way, have fun, enjoy it, and if you have any other questions or any other tips for anybody else, be sure to let us know in the comments below so everybody can learn from them. Take care, guys. Bye.